everybody, good morning. Welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, and disembodied hands, John, and maybe a Quindy out there somewhere. Oh, hi, Rex. Poof! A wild Rex appears. And there is a Quindy. I thought there would be. Hey, everybody. It's good to see you. Hey, today is the today is the day that David's parents left to go back to Seattle. My life can return to normal. You want to know the crazy thing, guys? The crazy thing is that even though we ate out to dinner every single night while they were here, and they were here 5 nights, and we went to really nice places for like 3 of those nights, I lost weight while they were here. I wonder if it was stress. It's just so weird. Like, I'm happy. I'm thankful. Thank you, Scale, for not gaining weight while David's parents were here. But still, it was kind of weird. I was not expecting it. How are you all today? Are you ready to Wyvern? Are you ready to Wyvern? The people pile in. Piling in. Better than piling on. I'm going to actually glue Wyvern to his base. I just decided to. Pretty much got all the underside darkened down. So places like this under the tail where you're really not going to see it at all from the outside, just get it dark, and then once you have the base on, see what you can see and highlight there. You want some paint on it, obviously, but you don't need it to be painted to the awesome power. You need my glasses. There we go. Alrighty. So how did the Q&A go yesterday? I didn't catch it. I was actually returning from going out at the time. So how did the Bones Fulfillment Q&A go? Oh, nice, Rex. Well, thank you. Yeah, I still have your kitties. Now we're getting toward, we're in summer now, so... your ghost kitties, I think, your slime kitties. I'm gonna put one on the menu, at least on my personal stream. I will show them off on my, one of them should be a fast paint. They are, after all, slime. I'll have to think about how to paint them, though. I'm just going to take some mold line off the side of the base. Usually bases have this mold line that kind of go around, you know, around the side. Just kind of do little bits of chip work to get it out. And since it's rocks, of course, you don't have to worry too much if you take off a little bit of detail, because it's just a rock. Who knows what it is? Yeah. Highlights: announced Bones Pledge Manager 5.5, talked about Canadian orders, UK and Australia fulfillment pipelines. Great. Yeah. Like, it, you know, it's been enough years of us doing these. It's nice to be organized. So yeah, I'm excited. Like, when I get my Mandapar pass, I'm going to have to, like, think about where I'm going to stuff that. I want to actually work on it a little bit. On stream, on the big Yeti face backdrop, but I'm gonna have to raise my camera up super high and clear off a bunch of my desk because it's so big. I'm not sure if it'll come in pieces or not. You don't know, John, do you? The Mandapar Pass one with the Yetis and snow leopards, that big backdrop, the carved stone backdrop. Do you know if is it all one piece or does it come in a couple? Bone 6 was confirmed, yeah. Oh, good, Smallish Sam. That's good. 2 pieces. Perfect. Okay, good. Yeah, if it's not all one piece, I'll be able at least to break it down a little bit then. I don't mind painting it in 2 pieces. It'll make it easier to get under the camera. I was looking at a lot of lichens and stuff when I was on hiking this weekend. Looking at colors and types and styles. I don't know how much I'll be able to do at that scale, but... it'd be cool to put some, because it's, you know, it's you assume it's like up in the frozen areas, but you can get a lot of lichen and moss up there, so that would be good to put an extra component on the piece. Oh, okay, big face and then it slots into the stairs. Okay, yeah, I'll have to see I'll have to see how I can fit the big face on the, under the camera. Might have to just, like, take the excuse to clear off my desk area a little bit and make some room. John's hacking now. Is he the Reaper hacker? So I can still reach the underside of the tail there, so I'm going to be just fine. Just decided that I kind of wanted the Wyvern on that. And actually, I need a block. I think I actually have my medium-sized block. The genie's on it, but we're almost done with her, so I'm going to steal her block. I'm going to steal her block. We'll just have to trade blocks back and forth. I could prep another one of these medium-sized blocks. This is the 1.5 inch wooden block. For models like this and the genie and the Efreet, I think it's a very good size to hold for monsters, for small monsters, like ogres. Morning, everybody. Yeah, lots of stippling. I mean, lichen, that's typically what you do. But I was thinking about trying some texture stuff too. Because some lichen isn't like quite as clingy. Like there was this cool flaky lichen that was up in the mountains this weekend. Kind of like really crumbly looking, like quite stand off on the surfaces of like tree surfaces and stuff. Alrighty, I think we're stuck on. I think I'm gonna actually raise my camera like I did the other day. Yesterday. Because it lets me get a little bit further out. I get a little bit more room to paint. That's a little bit nicer. Alright. We're going to work on highlighting the reds and purples today. And maybe just a little bit more block in on the legs. But yeah, I like to look, Rex, when we're hiking, I like to look at stuff that's around me in the mountains, like actual lichens, and kind of make notes of like colors and stuff like that. Textures. A lot of the textures get lost at 28mm is the problem, but you can then use them if you're putting together a diorama that's slightly bigger scale, or that you can present as bigger scale. Like, you could paint this Wyvern in the 28mm scale, or you could say this is a 54mm Wyvern and say that it's a baby, right? So depending on how you scale your surroundings in his base or diorama, because there's nothing on the base, you don't know what size the statue is here that he's standing on. So you don't know, you could scale it any way you want. Your monsters don't have to stay at this scale, I guess is the point I'm talking about. It's just like if you decided to paint a giant or an ogre with, to be 20mm, so your ogres become giants and you use tiny little people in like a diorama with one. You could do that. Alright, I'm going to mix up my Kraken ink, which is what we were using for the purple of the lovely, lovely Wyvern. And we were also using some Osirian sand for our highlight color, even though it's like a yellowy white. I have to figure out, I want to get his throat kind of worked on today too. I think I did a 4:1. Going to get a couple of drops there. I need my mixing brush. So for those who didn't see yesterday, I have the ReaperCon brush holder, and I'm using it, actually. I like it a lot, so here you go. So there it's got a pirate ship, and it's got cool, and it's got that, and it's holding my brushes. Ah! And now the brushes are falling off because I tilted it too much. I tilted! Oh no, don't let your brush holder tilt, guys. It's not a good idea. Don't let it play video games. Alright, but anyway, it's a really cool brush holder. I like it. Like, I do not use, I had yet to find a brush holder that I would actually use, but I use that one because it's actually the right size for me. I don't use more than 6 or 7 brushes in the course of my painting usually. So, that actually fits everything that I use. I believe so, Coops. I didn't get a response from Ron as to what was in which box or swag thing. I had all the paints out yesterday too, and I wasn't sure what each thing went in. Maybe John could help us. John, do you know, is that humanoid skin tone triad with the wild folk skin and the dragonkin flesh and all that, is that going to be in the VIP swag bag or box or whatever? So you'll get everything, Coobs. Yeah, but it'd be useful if I could tell other people how to get it. Thanks, John. Yeah, I figured John would be able to access that information. All right, let's see here. Got my mixing brush. We're just mixing up some Kraken ink and Osirian sand to create the purple that we had on the back there. We're just gonna make this kind of, let's see, I am gonna zoom and I'm gonna go up here and I'm gonna focus here. There we go. Well, I mean, you get excited about it, right? Everybody's got too much stuff, but sometimes this stuff is so cool, it's hard to resist. Okay, there. So I've got my Wyvern focused in. I am going to back out again so that I can get my paint swatches in here. There. So that's the, it actually makes a beautiful purple. Kraken ink plus white, or in this case I used an off-white, a yellow off-white, Osirian sand. It's a very, very pretty purple. So we're using that to kind of highlight the dark purple bits. And it looks like I need a lighter version as well. Cool. Yeah, my schedule was totally disrupted by having David's folks around for 5 days. So now I'm looking forward to getting back into it. Like 2 days of a cool disruption with friends over is cool, right? 2 days is fun because it's like a weekend. But then when you go really long, then it's like you're kind of itching to get back into your schedule. At least for me, I rely on a schedule to to get everything done. So, and I didn't have any time to paint over the weekend at all. They're really nice people and I like them a lot, but dang it. I'm going to be happy to get back to my grind. That sounds so weird. But it's totally like we haven't seen family for so long because of the pandemic that we definitely owe. You are looking for wild folk. Let me grab them. The numbers are 29148, 29146, and I think 29147 is what my guess is. It's around here somewhere. It's Dragonkin red and Hellfolk red and Wildfolk gray. Oh yeah, Cranston. Congrats, Nomad Zeke. You're almost to your double sub-anniversary. I'm not going to sing, but I'm going to say, yee! Thank you for the resub. All right, Wyvern. Now I need some red. And then we're ready to just go for it. But yeah, I primed up my Knoll bust, my female Knoll. So I'm excited to get her into my painting rotation. The halfling is almost done. I do. If the pun does sufficient damage, I do boo. Let's see here. I need my orange, brown. Remember, we're using kind of muted colors. We're using our mahogany and our orange brown. So those colors right there for our Wyvern. So I want to keep the red pretty dark red, but that is not good. Sometimes when our paints have lots of high density pigments in them, they tend to separate. So you have to shake them a little extra. Whenever I see a drop come out that's watery like that, right away I'll just take it out of the well with your Kleenex or whatever you've got. In my case, Kleenex, paper towel, whatever you keep to hand for those side of things. If you shake it up again, then it's almost always going to go into solution the second time. I think sometimes it just gets a little bit of fluid trapped at the top. There. And then we want a highlight for these lovely, lovely red scales. Let's see how that works. So we are kind of analogous on this, except that our purple does definitely slide toward blue. We'd be within our rights to go with to have gone with a blue instead of a purple for the dark bits on this guy. But I wanted to kind of switch it up because it's a predictable thing. I do it all the time. So I decided not to go that way this time. Make it a little bit different. So that gets into a really burnt red-orange. When we get that there, then we'll probably go up to orange-brown with a touch of Assyrian sand. I was just looking at my monsters to see who I was going to replace, like, some of my projects with. I need to sit and go through them. So I ordered a bunch of stuff. Happily, by the next time I have to order from Reaper, a ton of the Bones 5 stuff should be in, so that should be exciting. Well, and some of the stuff will come in my Kickstarter package, so some of that will be used on screen for sure. Yeah, so that orange mutes down a lot with the mahogany in it. Still a lot of pigments that are kind of fighting against each other. With the reason... Oh, okay. Oh, it's top secret. Ooh. Hey, Roger, thanks for that resub. 10 months. You're almost to your sub-anniversary. That's exciting. Yeah, Reaper John says those are top secret, guys, and we're already using one on our previous project. Oh, Ron just messaged me. Ooh, shall I look? All right. Hold on while I text him. Aw. There we go. Top secret. So Ron has a secret. You should all bug him. I'm going to tell them to bug you. All right. Excellent. Ron is typing to me. He's telling me things. He's a lighthouse. Like, he keeps us from hitting the rocks, but, like, is not useful in day-to-day life. Samurai Jack, 20 months. Dang, it's the resub day. Resub day. Resub day. Quindy liked that. Yeah, I thought so too. That's the first thing you learn at Reaper, is to throw Ron under the bus. It is. Like, Ed would give me, like, you know, good points on my Reaper report card for doing this. All right, I'm gonna make one more highlight on these for this orange, and then we're gonna dive in. Hi, Dralcree. It is resub day. 17 months? Nice. He confirmed a lighthouse. Oh, nope. Yeah, Hellborn skin, Dragonfolk skin, and Wildfolk skin are part of the VIP ticket to ReaperCon and will be handed out there on site. Not a secret. Hold on, I'm going to ask about the boxes. What's the name of this one? Boxes are the fast pallets in the big swag stuff. All right. I'm just going to find out everything from Ron. Oh, fast palette per box. Never mind, John said. And what about the brush holder, John, since I've got you? Oh, okay. Swag box gets the dark reach colors, Ron says. We're using 2 of those in our Crimson Herald. Brindwind box gets the Dungeon Dweller colors. This is all subject to change without notice by Ed. Because I know how... And the Hobby box gets the Gloom Engrave colors. I like the Gloom Engrave best. Great colors. I'm just going to give Ron... Give him some positive feedback, right, guys? And Mega Bundle, you get all of it. Everything. You know you want it. It can't just be Rax. You don't know why Ron ever tries to crawl out from under the bus. I just think it's natural. I don't know. Maybe it's so much fun getting hit by it. Look at our pretty colors here, guys. This is actually, there's a purple and orange spectrum, really, except for our red there. And it actually is a very pretty succession of colors. Do a refresh, Rax. So you guys should all... And Ron confirmed that, you know, many colors are based on some canceled colors. So if you want close, you know, to get close to some of those beautiful canceled colors that I use all the time, like Stained Ivory and Chestnut Gold, pick up those. Pick it up, guys. I'm tilted. 1 second. I'm tilting. I have to untilt. Like, there are times that my camera is straight. Like, it's straight on camera, but it's crooked in front of me. Yeah, isn't the purple pretty? Yeah, that's Kraken Ink, and last bug. When will Kraken Ink be released? There we go. We're getting answers. I have Ron on my phone, so... Oh, okay. There we go. I'm Ronning. I'm getting all the Ron information here, guys. Good. Excellent. Yeah, I'm asking about Kraken Ink. Oh, yeah, Lady Kachara. Good job. You always feel tilted before noon. Oh, noes. The fate of Kraken Ink is still up in the air, guys, as far as whether it will be a released color. So yes, here's our palette. You can see these colors coming into play here on the back on the Wyvern, right? So you can see how well they harmonize both when you put them on the palette. So you can see all of them here on the back of the Wyvern. You can see the red on the main scales, and then the gradations of the orange are coming over on the wings. And they will also be used to highlight the red a bit. And then you can see that purple coming down on the spine. We just need a little bit of that super high highlight to come in on that purple. And also that purple is coming in a little less visibly here on the underside of the Wyvern. Tell Bobby Jackson. Oh, wow, Resin Netherball. Nice. I have one of those. So right now the Kraken Ink is in a set. Am I correct? So yeah, if you want to see all of the, hold on, I've got... So Lady Kachara, okay, yeah. This is a nice little wyvern, so if you want to see all of the work we've done, here's the blend on the underside of the wings. We based this on, I have the concept art somewhere on my phone, but I don't want to go too into it. I was just starting the underside there, still haven't highlighted a lot. The legs are still kind of base coated. And of course we haven't done the mouth. I was working with the throat and how I wanted it to look from the last Brinewind set from ReaperCon. But is it available now? Or is it never available again? And I'm going to have to beg Sadie. We're going to have to pool our funds and get them to make a gallon of it, guys. High Seas Horror Set. All right. I'm going to have to order another one because I use this thing like it's going out of style. High Seas Horror. Thank you, Quindy. So if you want your Kraken ink, folks, now is the time to invest in the High Seas Horror Set if you have not. It also has other useful colors. Haha. So yeah, so that gives it. So Kraken ink right now looks like I'll buy a whole nother set of that Brinewind Horror set so I can get more Kraken ink, which is a lovely, lovely, as you can see, a very, very dark purple. It's really useful for shading blues and reds and, well, even, you know, oranges, as you can see. It's just a really useful color. I also love purples to shade greens. And so it's also a lovely color for that. Purple, you can sneak purple. When it's a nice dark purple like this, you can sneak it into the shadows on so many colors, and it just looks more interesting. 10k bits for a new color? Is that for real? Because if that's for real, we need some cheering to go on. And we need Kraken ink to be that color. I bet we could rally the troops for this, guys. No, just an idea? You should run that one by Ed. And he'll probably, like, growl at us and say, I already told you guys if you pool your money, we'll, like, make a gallon of an out-of-print color for, you know, for you. So I'm going to get my tiny brush here. Just because tiny brush was what I reached for. And we're going to, you know, make sure we've got some of this nice purple shading on these reds. That said, this is a very large wyvern, so I may yet decide to swap back over to a larger brush. My problem is that I just switched to a super fresh brush, like my old Winsor & Newton, or my old Da Vinci Maestro Series 10 size 1, which is my workhorse brush, finally died, or became to the point where it would not hold a tip after a year and a half of extreme abuse. So I had to trash it, but I don't want to use a super fresh brush on stream. I like to break them in. And I also like to use them on like a new project to inaugurate them. So that's why I primed my Knoll bust from White Werewolf Tavern. So we're going to just put some lining in. We're using our purple to shade and line around these nice little scales here. Hey, Basement Forge, how's it going? It is not at all... It works well, Matt Nuke, but is very different from Kraken ink. Nightmare has a lot of... oh, sorry, not Nightmare. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about Nightshade Purple. No, you're right then. Nightmare Black, it's a blue, not a purple, but... And it doesn't have any purple in it. But you're right, it acts similarly because it has a nice vibrant color. Sorry, I misread that as Nightshade Purple, and I was going to point out that Nightshade, although it is a black purple, is also, it has a lot of black in it, so it doesn't have this vibrant color. That's kind of the problem with Rax too. With the whole, you know, if we made a new paint for like X amount of channel points, then the problem is we have so many of you with so many channel points, like it would mean nothing. Like we'd have to make the prices super high. That wouldn't be very fair. All right, gonna do just a little bit of shading there, just to get those, see how that gets those scales to stand out a little bit better. Yeah, you need like a 10 mil goal. Exactly. Yeah, that's true. Like Samurai Jack, sometimes you can take advantage of someone who doesn't realize how useful a color is. Or it could just be a color that you use that a lot of people don't, right? Because that's part of your style as a painter, is like the colors that you prefer to use. Everybody's got a different rotation and a slightly different set that they love. I certainly do. I mean, that's why I've got this drawer right next to me with about 100 colors that I reach for regularly. And if I don't have the color in that drawer, I'll just mix it. Or I'll mix something close to it. So just going in and kind of making sure my shading is in place before I start to highlight. Because highlighting is going to pick out all these little scale details. So I like to shade first, make sure my shading is there. So that I don't have to worry about hitting all these little scales with these thin lines when I've got all these highlights in place. And if I get a little messy with my shading here, I can always correct it with my highlights, which tend to cover better than shading does. Shadow colors tend to be a little transparent. Somebody mentioned that yesterday, that some of the later skin tones tend to have not quite as good coverage. And that's just because a darker color usually doesn't have the white pigment in it to help it cover. And also, when we first started, if it's an earlier color, when we first started the line, there was, we were definitely trying to make it accessible to painters who were beginners. So we wanted to make it so you could use that shadow color as a good wash. And in general, the more translucent a paint is, the better a wash it will make. All right, we've got some of that nicely picked out. Yeah, samples are mistake paints. The oopses, yeah. Yeah, because we don't repeat them. So if you like one, I usually just figure out how to mix it. That way I can eternally make more. But not everybody has the mixing foo I do. These days, more and more, though, I'm going in my boyfriend's direction, which is to use a smaller selection of colors and just mix the colors I want, and not try to mix a peacock green so much as I'm trying to mix just a blue-green, which makes it much easier if you're not trying to match an exact color, but you're more aiming for a particular class of color or a particular hue. And as long as it's close, you're good. Because usually if I'm aiming for that color, there's a specific effect I want. And I don't necessarily need that color for an effect. I just need something close. So. Unfortunately, phthalo green and blue are the pure pigment you can't. Yeah, clear brights are not mixable. And you'll also find that phthalo blues, and sometimes greens, it's more often blues. Phthalo blues from other companies will be slightly different because they're using a different pigment company or whatever, but you'll see sometimes it'll be a warm. There's also different classifications, like with phthalo blues and greens, there's usually a warm shade and a cold shade, or a, red shade and a blue shade, or a yellow shade and a green shade. There's all sorts of complication when it comes to pigments. Alrighty, so we've got some shading. I think our shading is almost complete here. We've got the scales, see how they're coming out really nice there. Yeah, it makes it a fantastic dark teal, Valandar. It's actually, if you want a clear teal to use for glazing, it's your go-to. If you have those colors. What makes me happy is when you guys like the clears, because it's like you realize that transparency is not a detriment. It's a bonus. It makes your paint more versatile. You can always add opacity by adding a touch of white. And we've done that here on stream before. I don't know, Dabber. People talk about it, but it's something that never seems to come together. I'm not sure if anybody has actually ordered a special run. It's nice of Ed to make it, you know, accessible. Yeah, that's just a little bit too... This orange is... You see how these are kind of the same value, guys? So this is the problem, is that this orange and this red are very close together. Can you see, like, maybe a half step between colors? So I probably have to go up, actually, to my brighter orange and thin it. And see how that works for these scales, because they're so small. Thank you. Yeah, I do have my own Twitch channel, as Quindy just promoted. And it's twitch.tv/paintingbig. And I've been painting my competition piece lately over there. So we've been working on Ms. Templar for the last several streams. We've been working recently on our cloth, but we're also working on getting this gauntlet all up to snuff. So if you want to see me do a lot higher quality work than I do over here, just like, because competition, it just takes so long, competition painting, and you're being so exacting about it. But then come on over, we do it on Thursdays. It's Thursdays at 4 p.m. Central Time. We just hang out and I work on that stuff. And it lets me talk a little bit more about, like, a little bit higher end techniques. Because often here, what I'm trying to do is make this, I mean, I'm making it a good model. But I'm also, like, talking about a lot of stuff that makes it more accessible, makes the hobby more accessible to you guys. Like, I answer a lot of questions. I answer questions on my own channel, too, if you ask. But, sometimes I go in a bit more advanced directions with it. So just by edging with this orange, see those scales come out really nicely. Oh, Quindy did it. Yeah, there you go, Kippo. Yeah. Yeah, on Thursdays. Thursday is my stream day, because I do it every day for Reaper, Kippo. So I'm here, like, pretty much. We do a different model every day here on this stream. And I'm here to answer questions. It's all about being informative and pretty much answering questions for you guys as best I can on the nature of paint and painting. So if you have any questions, newbie questions or not, I mean, just fire. Go ahead. Ask. I'll do my best to answer. And usually I'll tell you when I answer if it's my own, like, opinion or if it's something that, you know, is, like, scientifically regarded as true, or if, you know, many painters have different opinions on it. I'll try to give you kind of that perspective. Yeah, the goal, Bob and Julie, Julie, is to get it done for ReaperCon, since we don't have Crystal Brush anymore. So ReaperCon is like the nicest, most inclusive painting competition, other than, like, World Expo or Chicago. I don't know if they'd get it at, like, Chicago, because it's still more of a historical show and it's like Sky Earth. You never know how those techniques are going to play when you're dealing with historical painters. Sometimes they're like, oh, cool, and sometimes they're like, what are you doing? Why didn't you paint it in metallics? Oh, nice, Kippo. Well, if you are sculpting and painting what you sculpt, that's actually a great idea. You will learn a lot painting your own sculpts. I would recommend, though, also painting other people's sculpts, because painting your own stuff, you might not see, like, flaws or what you could do better as easily. Whereas if you also paint stuff from very experienced sculptors in the medium, you'll be able to kind of, like, go, oh, this was really easy to paint, and the way I did it wasn't as easy to paint. Why is that, right? So you can kind of self-analyze a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna learn a lot. Once you get a decent amount of painting expertise under your belt, you're gonna learn a lot by doing your own. Like, your sculpting will improve your painting, and your painting will improve your sculpting. It's actually pretty cool. A lot of good sculptors started out as painters and then moved over, or vice versa. So, but yeah, we do have, and we have a sculptor in chat here. Green Users is Julie Guthrie and Bob Rudolphi. which are two top sculptors for a lot of companies over the years, but currently working for Reaper. Julie does, actually Julie sculpted this wyvern. And I would call Julie one of the top creature sculptors. Dragon sculptor is definitely one of the top dragon sculptors in the game, and she also does amazing wolves and other animals. One of the better animal sculptors and animal people sculptors. So I'm just using this orange really on the edge of these scales because they're fairly small. And since I thinned my orange, I can kind of create a gradient, a layering gradient here, especially with this tiny brush. And I can just pick out the edges of these scales and still keep them fairly dark. I want this red to still show through. I don't want these scales to get as light as the orange wings. So when I do use this orange to highlight, and the even brighter orange that I have here, yes, both are legends, exactly. Bob's thing is undead, and Julie does critters. And they are far more versatile than that. That's just the things that, like, I think they both excel at just off the top of my head. Also, Bob is a master of, like, styrene and creating, like, man-made forms with it. So some of the terrain pieces that we've had have been Bob doing structures or little things. Yeah, samples are random. Oh, okay. Well, you'll just have to tell her, Bob. I think she's heard it from me before, though. I'm gonna have to get a button to go with my Bobby Jackson fangirl button. I need a Julie Guthrie fangirl button. With a picture of Maldrakar on it. We really need more fanboy and fangirl buttons for sculptors. Are undead your favorite thing to sculpt, Bob, since I have you here? Or are you, have you diversified and do you prefer another subject matter more now? Yeah, undead still. That's what I thought. Just gonna put a little line of highlight along these little tiny scales, guys. Because again, now, and if I feel that it's coming up too much toward orange and I'm getting too close to the wing at any point, what I'm gonna do is take my red and do a glaze over the whole surface to tie it together, darken it down just a little bit. In fact, I'll probably do that once I've got the hand, the arm and hand here done. And using this tiny brush, it's much smaller than I usually use. So tiny brush is a triple-aught Da Vinci. It's equivalent to about a 0/10 Reaper or a double-aught Winsor Newton Series 7. But using the tiny brush, although you have to reload your brush a lot, if you have trouble controlling very thinned paint, switch to a tiny brush. Because you can't really load very much into it to begin with. And it'll help you keep from getting puddles and paint running all out of control when you're thinning your paint. Though, remember always to get it kind of damp beforehand. And like what I do is rinse it out. It's all wet now. Got a big droplet of water hanging there. And I'll squeeze it out just between my fingers just to give it a point. And at that point, it's still got some water in it. So that when I load up my brush, it'll keep that paint wet longer, even though there's very little of it on the brush. Ah! I nicked that part accidentally. Yeah, you don't want a lot of water still on it. You just want a little. And you kind of want to look at like, to decide what edge of the scales you want to highlight, you want to kind of look at it in the light and see, like, kind of how the light falls here. So when the Wyvern, this is where my light source is just up toward my camera. So when I point the Wyvern that way and I look, I'm seeing like highlights hitting the top edge of each scale, like the edge going back toward the body. So that's where I'm going to put my highlights. And I'm going to leave majority of the scale red, because if I start painting a lot of orange on each scale, the scale is going to turn orange. It's not going to stay red. And we might want to put a little bit of kind of a line of highlight up the center here. I do need to watch it. It is also okay if you want to make your top, like the scales on the top of the ridge of the arm here, like where you can see the highlight, the light coming down from the lamp over there. If you want to make those middle scales have more orange, you could do that and leave the red around it. As long as the surface in general that you're working with is more red than orange, it'll still look red. But when you highlight everything up, and if you feel like I can tell already that I'm losing my red a bit, so I'm going to have to come back and do a glaze most likely. But I want to get all this set before I come back and do that glaze, because after I do that glaze, I'll just want to put on a top highlight on top edge of each of these, at least toward the ones that are really toward the light. Let's see here. So kind of looking here, that paw is very outstretched, so it gets a lot of light on it. So I definitely want some highlights. So this brush is so small that it lets very little light, very little paint come off of it. It's just very controlled. But it also takes you longer to paint big sections. The downside of the tiny brush. That said, when I was trying to get better at painting, switching to a tiny brush for a little while really helped me, because it made me focus on really small details and not kind of gloss over stuff. I would notice and paint the smaller details on a model and spend more time on them instead of just kind of putting a color on it and moving. I would actually paint it better. So sometimes I like to switch back to tiny brush, so it does make me focus more like that, because it's very possible as a painter, especially if you do a lot of gaming painting or faster painting, it is possible to just get lazy. You get used to kind of glossing over things and not spending as much time on tiny details, and then when you want to put a really good paint job on something, you could still fall into that habit of just kind of like rushing, right? Kind of glossing over tiny details. Because, if you're painting a gaming model, the tiny details really aren't important. But if you're painting like for ReaperCon or something, then they are important. So using a tiny brush can just kind of get you into a mental state where you pay more attention to the details. And attention to detail is one of the things that makes you a better painter. So again, as I always say, it all depends on your goals. Like, the most important thing is to paint for a reason that inspires you and makes you happy. And if that means you want to, just put quick gaming paint jobs on your D&D models all day, like, you rock it. Go for it. But if you do want to get better, then there's a lot of little tips and tricks that you don't have to, like, really work hard. You just have to, keep trying stuff. All right, let's put a glaze on this. Because I've got there's definitely some highlighted. It's mostly red still. You can see that it's darker. But I think I do want a red glaze. And now I can ask myself also, do I want to do a more vibrant red? Or do I want to stay with this dark color? Because I could bring in a more saturated red, but if I did, it might fight with the model. So I might want to do a mix if I want to mix it up. So let's see here. So let's say I wanted to add just a little bit of heraldic or something. Or even magma red. Magma red being an orange red. If you guys haven't ever used magma. It's a pretty awesome orangey highlight for any red that's decently bright. I think I might like it on here. I'm going to see. Let's see here. It is more red than it looks. It has a very heavy front load of red, for those who haven't used magma. I kind of feel like, on occasion, this is one of those underrated colors. I like it better than Phoenix Red, which is 9005. It's a little brighter. It is a little more transparent, but it also just has a lot of punch to it. So we could go two ways with this, really, with glazing. We can use this brighter orangier red, or we can go for a cooler red like violet red. Hi, Classic. What I do on stream for Reaper is I paint Reaper models. So this is a Wyvern that Reaper puts out. Here is the card and item number. Wyvern. Sculpted by Julie Guthrie, who is on occasion in chat here with us. And then I'm putting the paint job on it. So we've been working on it for a while. We've switched back and forth. Every day we do a different model, but we have a rotation of about 6 models. So we have been painting it, but Julie sculpted it, and Reaper produced it. Hopefully that answers your question. And we use all Reaper paints here because I did actually make all the paints. Sione Scarlet is different than those others you are mentioning. Sione is has no orange in it. The reason it looks orangey is that it uses a red pigment that is warmer. Whereas the other two that you mention have actual yellow added to them. And that's the difference. And because I make the paint, I know that. Yeah, so we paint everything we have here, Classic Sonic Fan. Let me show you the other models we're working on, or at least a couple of them. We just started one, and then we've been working on this Genie for a while. So this is Genie. She's almost done at this point. She's really close. I'm gonna have to figure out a replacement for her. So when we finish a model, we throw a totally new one into the rotation. So we worked on her a couple days ago, and then another one we're working on right now, who's almost done, is our half-orc wizard. She's coming along really well. We were just working on etching in some freehand on her back the other day. So she's about, I would say, 3/4 done. And then the other one we've been working on some freehand on is Lizette. And that's on the inside of her dress there, and we're working on that. We're working on a whole bunch of stuff. We got a lot of highlighting to do on her, some shading. There's a lot that's not done on her. But we're painting her as a wood elf, so yeah, so those are some of the models that we've been working on. Yeah. It has no white in it either. It's purely red. Sione is very, very red. So I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this glaze and show you guys how thin the glaze is. See how it really is colored water. This is even a little thick because you can kind of still see it here on the side of the well. So I'm going to add another drop of water into it. Kind of pull it out. When it looks like colored water, there, you're good. I'm going to brush this over the top of these scales and see if I like the effect or if it's too bright. It's going to intensify our color. It's going to take it toward orange, which is my only regret. Like, I'm like, well, is this going to be too orangey? So we've added a level of intensity with that glaze, and I just did it the simple way to do a glaze, which is just to brush it over the top, but I still have to come in and make sure it's not pooling. You don't ever want that glaze to pool, because it's going to dry like with coffee stain marks, and it's just going to look ugly because you've thinned the paint so much you've broken it. So that does bring us, it brings everything together. So what glazes do is it'll blend any brush strokes you've got. It'll make those a little bit more blended in. It will, or can, tint it. So we've actually tinted it slightly brighter and slightly oranger, more orange. Oranger is a word. But yeah, so we've done that. And those are really the two, like, to shift color or to shift lighter or darker or to disguise brush strokes are what glazes are generally used for. So that did disguise my brush strokes. It did integrate everything. It did push us a little lighter. I'm going to highlight with my really light orange over here and see if we've gone too far. If it looks too orange after that, I'll come back with my my mahogany. Or I'll reach for violet red or something that's more purpley. But yeah, many red pigments, when you thin them, do tend to go a bit pink, especially if you're, like, honestly, like, putting them over a white palette, then it's gonna look pink no matter what. I would say Sione is as close as I can come to kind of a neutral red, though it is a little toward the orange side. I'm going to just hit a little highlight on the top of each of these little ridge scales, guys, and then I'm going to come down here and do the same thing. It's going to make him look pricklier. It's going to make the Wyvern look spikier or pricklier without actually, like, painting, you know, as if there are spikes. But those sharp little edges, which are common on spiny lizards and things like that, we can suggest that by bringing up that sharp little peak on that edge of that scale, the triangular edge. Just like doing the scales on the back here, which we'll do a bit more on in a bit, that you can make them look spinier by accentuating the texture or the shape of the scale. Ooh, it's almost stretch time. Yay. This is the fun part, I like to think. Like, I really enjoy this part, where you're just, like, tuning and really bringing out all these beautiful details. This is my favorite part of the model. Like, favorite part of painting is when I'm getting really micro and just bringing up everything so all the details stand out really well. It's highly gratifying for me. I love the way it looks. Everybody enjoys a different part of painting. Oh, wet blending. Nice, Trouble. That is very cool. Such a versatile technique. Now I'm just going to go down the center of each of these scales, and once again I'm going to pop that really light highlight. See how that makes it look spiky? When you just hit those little tiny center spines with the final highlight. I always like that. And Julie sculpts scales that are really easy to do that with because of the shape. Because the big triangular overlapping. Now, because this is a tiny brush, sometimes the paint wants to dry a little bit in the bristles, and that's a sign that you need to reload your brush. So when you realize that your paint is just not coming off in those little touches that you need it to, that's a reload. Flame hair. Nice. Oh, cool. Like the fire giant? Sweet. Ah, PT, yes. Did my exercises this morning and last night. Let's see here. Alright, so little tiny. And when you're trying to really pop, like, just a detail, your last highlight is really tiny, as you can see. Like these little tiny dots. Let's get even closer. So you can see all those tiny little touches. Just little tiny dots. And this is a technique that also looks good on tabletop because it's very close to edge highlighting, although we've done you know, a lot more work with the intermediate highlights. but this also will make our wyvern look good from far away. Because this last little punch of highlight up against that shadow that we painted in earlier makes all those scales stand out really well, and that effect will carry even at a distance, even at arm's range. So let's see. Let's see here. You can see all those little scales, even though that's pretty far away. But essentially you should be able to hold it out and see the details on the model. Maybe not all the details, because you are looking at it from on a tabletop vantage or at arm's length, but you should at least see that there's texture there. I'm going to put our little bit of starting orange highlight on these side scales now, just for fun. Just because I realized I'd like to do the whole bit here. So we're using it's mostly orange brown. It has just like, it's 4 drops of orange brown with 1 drop of Osirian sand. We're using Osirian sand because it's a very pale yellow off-white. Now here I want to be a little bit careful because, as you can see, when you get out of control with your orange, you lose your red tone. We don't want to necessarily do that. So I may have to bring some red back in here. And concentrate more on the edges of the scales to highlight them. It's going to be a beautiful day here today. I hope you all are enjoying your summer, now that it actually is summer. Just going to get little tiny edges and bits and spikes of highlight on here. A little bit, just to show the light. And the sides and underside of the scale stays dark because it's cut in. If you see that triangular scale there, you see the top kind of comes out and then the bottom cuts in, which means that this bottom area stays in shadow. And that's why I'm keeping it dark and why I'm not highlighting it very much. I'm just still working on the head. Haven't quite gotten the horns done. We haven't done the eyes. We haven't done the mouth yet, Deku. We're still kind of working on, like, I did the wings first, because wings for me are always the most boring part. And so I wanted to do the wings first just so we could get that out of the way. And so I'm finally working around to the point where I'm doing all these scales, and then we'll finish up the head. Yeah, but I want to do kind of the purple shading with some yellow and orange. And the mouth will probably be pink, just because monster mouths tend to be. And we've got a little bit more highlighting. The legs aren't done at all, and this whole section is totally not done either. So we have quite a bit left to do. Even a small monster can take a long time. Yeah, thanks, Deku. It's a very good sculpt, so it's when you have a wonderful sculpt, it's very easy to do a good paint job on it. I think it helps you in general. Miniature painting is always a collaboration between you and the person who sculpted it, unless you're one and the same person. Then you have an advantage if you can sculpt your own stuff. Let's see here. Trying to do the lining around the scales to add my purple in, my really dark purple, the Kraken ink. Just like to have that dark purple between the scales, just a real quick kind of block in. Doesn't matter if you're very neat with it or not, because you can touch it up as you move along. But I like to have all those little scales stand out, so that purple shadow that you see there is helping them to stand out. Cool. I have been painting for a very long time. And I made Reaper's paint lines, so I am on stream talking about it every day. We go from 11:30 a.m. Central to a little after 1 p.m. usually. And it's stretch time. It's time for a stretch break, guys. Alright, so let's leave this guy where you guys can see him. And try not to get his wingtip in the paint like I tend to do. Ah! He says, "Rawr!" Here, let's just turn him up. And get him... let's just zoom out a little bit and give you the whole Wyvern. There we go. The whole Wyvern. And we'll leave our colors kind of in frame. There we are. Rawr. David says I make all my monsters go rawr, and it's true. My favorite animal is the fox, Deku. But I like all canids also. So I like wolves and dogs. But I'm just an animal lover in general. Alrighty. Up. Penguins Methophile. I have a friend who went to Antarctica before COVID. She has pictures of herself like next to emperor penguins. If you have time, guys, and you've been sitting for a long time, kind of get up and stretch break with us. Your spine will thank you. At least my spine always thanks me. Do the behind the back stretch. Yeah, do I have anything foxy? Yeah, I did get some fox stuff. It's not Reaper stuff though, Deku. I got some Rise of Obliteritarium. There's a game that was kickstarted, and I didn't so much care about the game, but they had a fox people faction, so I totally went for that. So I have a Kitsune samurai and kind of a sorcerer and a crazy alchemist fox guy. It's cool. Not planning to paint them like super well, but here, let me see. I don't have the pole arm. Don't have the pole arm completely done yet here, because I need to unbend it. Let's see if I can get it. So this is my, real quick, fox samurai guy. Fox samurai dude with a mask and everything. He's cool. It was an obscure little board game. Or miniatures game, I should say. Alright, I'm going to do my floor stretch and then we'll come back. Alrighty. We are back. And hydrate, everybody. Even if you didn't stretch, hydrate. With your fluid of choice. Alright. Excellent. Back to Wyvern scales. Maybe we'll do some of the stuff on his face. He's got a little bit of red there. Where did I put my... There they are. Totally misplaced my glasses. Yep, coffee, you choose you. That's cool. Oh, I totally got into a coffee habit that now I'm going to have to break with David's folks here. I didn't get my power nap, you know, so to keep going and being being happy and engaging all evening, I totally needed to turn to artificial happy juice. Artificial happy juice is a thing. Alright, let's get some of this orange. And it's this orange right here. It's our mostly orange-brown, which is a very... it's a much more vibrant orange than you think it is. And it's got a little bit... This one has a little bit of Pathfinder Osirian sand in it. Highly recommend this color. It's an off-white. If you're looking for any color to highlight bone or ivory, or any orange or yellow, it's a little bit, I think it's maybe a little muted for really bright yellows, but you probably can make it work. Alright, gonna kind of bring in, I feel like need a little bit of a transition color in here, actually. I'm going to bring in a bit of a darker orange first. So that I can suggest a little bit of highlight. This is a very small space, so if we're going to keep this area red, we need to make our highlights really small. My favorite instrument is actually voice. I know a lot of people don't consider voice an instrument, but I like to sing, and I enjoy choral music. If I had to choose an instrument that I enjoy listening to, it would probably be harp or acoustic guitar. Though I also learned to play the drums a little bit when I was in Texas. And it's a roll to explode. All right. With a raid. Thanks, Roll to Explode. We are working on Wyvern. It's Wyvern Day. And I'm working on highlighting, just putting a couple of little highlights on his face here, where the red is. We've been highlighting the red on the shoulder here and down to the paw, just getting some details. Cool. Yeah, I used to be in choir when I was in school. I kind of miss it, but it's like, it takes up a lot of time, so I haven't found a local choir because I'm so busy with everything else in my life. So a little bit of brighter highlights on the face makes those details stand out. We still don't want to get too far away from the reds, so... Oh yeah, goldfish, that's funny. Let's see here. So I want to get this little ridge of muscle for sure. And just make my highlights very small. I want to keep the keep a lot of the red here. I got a little bit too strong, I think, on that the orange out here, so I'm going to bring some red back in. You're playing Warhammer 40k or a regular roll? 40k, sorry, 40k or fantasy regular. Haha. Sorry, my brain got off track while I was trying to like paint and ask a question at the same time. Obviously, I need more caffeine. So I'm going to accentuate these highlights just a little bit. And I'm probably going to get in kind of the eyelid here with a bit of orange as well. Just to try to bring it out. I guess it's not fantasy anymore, it's Age of Sigmar. Unless you play old school. Little tiny face, little tiny eyes. Want to blend in a little bit of my orange, then I take a little bit of my red and paint it over the top. I have to decide where I really want to accentuate. I do want to accentuate around the eye here, so I'm going to add a little bit of a lighter orange to really bring out that area right under it, and I'm going to try to accentuate that eyelid as well. And I did lose a little bit of that area right under the eye, so I'm going to bring in my dark purple again. As you see how the orange is kind of like getting in the way of the white here. I'm going to add that dark back in. If that means I have to pop the eye up with some white, I can. I'm going to add some purple, actually, shadows under here on the face as well. That'll help bring out some of these features, the different muscle groups. I go back and forth on the orange here as to how strong I'm going and whether I need to back it down a little bit. It's getting there. With this tiny little brush, there's a lot of reloading. There we go. Yeah, that's pretty good. We just like kind of keep it there for now. Yeah. Thank you, Deku. Yeah, he's coming along. I mean, half the good is the sculpt, because when you've got a really good sculpt, then you have to work harder to mess it up. So I always tell people if they want to paint something for ReaperCon, they should choose a sculpt that doesn't have a lot of flaws. Make sure that it's a very clean sculpt, a lot of very clear details, not a lot of mucky areas. If you have to kind of squint and ask yourself what an area is, then that's probably not a great choice, because you'll end up struggling with that area and maybe not finish. A lot of times with competition painting, you want to make sure that, you know, take as many steps as you can to make sure that you still really love the model, even when you've been working on it for 10 hours or more. Yeah, it works, Lord Nobody. It's cool. And since Quindy's linking, or since the bot is linking ReaperCon, remember, ReaperCon is coming up. I will be there. David and I will be there. Hanging out and finally getting a con again. Just adding a little more purple shadows here to these scales to bring them out so that I can highlight them up. Yeah, off-whites can be quite useful. I like this Osirian sand as an off quite a bit, because I tend to go up yellow anyway, so the fact that it's a yellowish off-white works for me. Just going to hit the edge on these big scales for starters, and then kind of bring in a little bit more highlighting. Maybe suggest some scale texture. On these big ones, you can suggest, just like we suggested, a little bit of the texture on the edge here. You can do that here. All right. I think it's gonna be a lovely day for my walk today. Trying to get all these little tiny scales to kind of show up a bit. And they're all kind of compressed together, so this is where maybe we want to use more of those edge highlights just because there are all these tiny little scales. And you really just want to bring them out just a little bit. Just want everything to stand out. There we go. Rawr. Rawr, says the Wyvern. I'm going to bring up some of this light orange. And starts to dry in the brush a little bit, that's time to reload. After a couple of reloads, you want to rinse it out and reload. Generally good practice. Yeah, it's supposed to be 75 here today, so it's supposed to be just lovely walking weather. So there. So now we just need to, I think I still need to take that light orange and hit this forearm here. And then we'll have gotten quite a bit done on this Wyvern today, guys. Let's finish up that forearm there. And then tomorrow is not mushroom, it's half orc. So we'll work more on that freehand on the back of her cape, her cloak. Go. Little bits of scale highlights. So I finally pulled the switch on getting myself a new laptop this weekend for my birthday. I figured I could rationalize it because I desperately needed one. Mine is starting to have screen flickers and stuff like that. So that's exciting. I can't wait to set that up and get it all my stuff loaded onto it. There we go, little tiny highlights. Let's back out. Makes all those little scales stand out. Oh, nice that the cost came back down. I figured it would eventually, Coos, right? So there's our Wyvern, guys. He's got a lot of highlights on this side now. It looks good. Yeah, I got a new MacBook Air for my writing and for my Patreon video editing and my Patreon writing and all that stuff. That's everything, like all that's on my Mac. But yeah, the IP was real nice, Coos. I hope you enjoy it. I really like mine. I'm glad the price came back down so that if mine ever breaks, or when mine breaks eventually, I'll be able to get a new one. Probably wouldn't hurt to get a backup. Just doing a quick highlight with my light purple down the spine of the beast here to make him look more prickly. I think it makes sense for wyverns to be prickly, don't you? Prickly wyverns. like prickly pears, only not edible. I guess very determined adventurers pretty much can eat anything. Sweet. Yeah, I hope you, okay, VCR. Very similar to the VZX I've got. Yeah, just remember to, I find it works best with a neutral backdrop, as you can see. Like, what you see on camera is pretty much exactly true to color as what you see on Wyvern, as what I'm seeing Wyvern in person. But neutral backdrop definitely helps with that. It's not as sensitive to light and dark in the frame as other webcams are, but it will react well to, yeah, he's coming along. Is this Julie back? Are you back, Julie, or is Bob still here? Do we still, which one of you do we have? But yeah, once you've got it plugged in and set up, Coos, I mean, all of the commands here on the stock of the thing are really useful. I use the zoom and the autofocus lock, the blue button, a lot. Yes, you're back. Julie's back. Well, good. Yeah, we got a lot of scale highlighting done today, Julie. I really need to get like this part of his neck like it is on this side, and we need to work on his mouth. Now I'm starting to say, okay, I've got to get the head done. So maybe next stream we'll work on the head, guys. We'll work on the neck and getting the horns figured out, and because we'll do the horns and teeth at the same time. Probably going to go yellow or green with the eyes. Maybe like a really pale green. Yeah, I do, Coops. Do. Yeah, I use gray construction paper. It's so inexpensive, and it's easy to swap out a fresh sheet when you get too much gook on it. Or when the ends start bending up and stuff like that. I used to use drawing paper, but it was so much more expensive, and I couldn't find as good a color as this. So I like this color a lot. It seems to give, on most models, it seems to give a very true appearance on the camera as far as color goes, and light dark. So, yeah. All right, guys. Well, cool. So we did a lot of scale highlighting. Now we'll have to make the other side. See, here's the before and after. This side has just gotten some rough shading with the Kraken ink, and this side has gotten all of the highlighting. You can see how all the little details come out so much better when you pop those little highlights on there. So, oh, I've been doing PT and like yoga, so my back is like been awesome for ages, Orion. I never have any problems anymore. I went hiking in the mountains and didn't even get a twinge this weekend. But yeah, we're at the end of the stream though. You came in at the end. But yeah, we worked on scales today. We did a little bit of purple. We mostly concentrated on the red and seeing if we could keep that nice red tone while still putting our highlights on. I think it worked just fine. So we glued our Wyvern down to the base. So now we can get at the underside there. We need to do some highlighting and stuff there as well. Still. And yeah, that's what we did. Tomorrow is going to be half orc day, half orc wizard. So we'll continue in our freehand on the back of her cape. Probably color it in, figure out what color we're going to use. Might do red, might do something different. I don't know. We'll do something. What do we got today, Quindy? It's Wednesday, right? I don't remember if we have a other stream. Oh, Miniatures Den. That's right. Oh, cool. We'll be rating somebody who's making Twitch emotes. Yeah, that's cool. That sounds fun. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you like how the Wyvern is turning out, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow morning, bright and early. We're not so early for those in Central Time Zone or Eastern. It's 11:30 a.m. Central Time for our half orc wizard, and yeah, have a great day. Thanks everybody for tuning in.